Had started recording. Sorry, no problem. Recording started back. Uh, what happened? Yeah, recording is going on. Now, you please let me know what to do. Two things. Again, I'm repeating. This is the problem in online. I cannot see your faces. I cannot see your responses. So I'm repeating again. Uh, these two exam weeks, 6 to 10 of September, 4 to 8 of October. Obviously, we'll have one test each. So one session gone. What about the rest three sessions? What shall we do about it? And I'm saying it because there are like 84 students, of which around 50 are from the MSc core. Rest are from different departments. There is a substantial number of students, around 30 odd students from other courses. So you need to have a synergy regarding these decisions. And secondly, how many number of groups shall we have for our final presentation? That term paper presentation. The number now is 84. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go back. So in our last lecture, we talked about this very simple partial equilibrium framework, and we saw that if there is negative production externality, if we leave it to the market, there will be overproduction. So what we do, we design a tax structure and very simply reduce the production to the socially optimal level. The difference is created again not because the private cost of production and the social cost because of these negative production externalities are different. Similarly, when we had positive, say, consumption externality, if we leave it to the market, it will underproduce. So what we do, we simply provide a subsidy structure so that we reach to the social optimal, and the difference is being created because the private benefit from consumption of this good is less than the social benefit, right? So we have talked about these things in the last lecture. So now today what we'll do, we'll start with the concept of public good. Now you can think about two basic characteristics of consumption of any good. One is excludability, another is rivalry. So take for example a coffee that you can purchase from CCD. When you purchase that coffee, no one else is going to take it from you and have a sip and give it back to you, right? That's not possible because you have purchased it. It's yours. And when you are having it, no one else can have it, that particular cup of coffee. So, and now think of a web subscription of, say, Amazon Prime Videos. When you are watching a particular series, you cannot say that no one else will see it when I'm seeing. Those who have the subscription can parallelly see. So there is no rivalry. But you can exclude those who does not have a subscription. Think of a pure public good. What is a pure public good? Which is neither excludable and non-rival. So whether when you are enjoying the service of say street lights, you cannot say that this street light is in front of my house, so I'll not let anyone else use it. You cannot say that. Anyone using that stretch of the road cannot be excluded. Neither, suppose three of you are walking down, all of you are getting the same light. So there is no rivalry in consumption, that if I'm under the street light, I'm taking away the street light. No. The street itself, think of the street itself. Anyone can use it, and if you use it, there is no reason that you will eat up another person's opportunity of using it. But the moment you put a toll gate in a highway, the non-rivalry, that portion will remain, that characteristic will remain, but you are excluding some people from using the road itself. Those who do not pay the toll cannot use that road. So when you think of say matrix in front of you, excludable, non-excludable, rival, non-rival. So pure public good are those which are non-excludable and non-rival. Take for example a particular lake, fishing lake. Anyone can go. There is no barrier to entry, and no one can claim a right over it, that it's my lake. It's not a private thing. You can think of a pasture land in a village where anyone's cattle can go and graze. Simple. So there, the resource is rival. If I take out n number of fish out of the lake, it's mine, those fish. I'm not excluding you, but actually I'm taking some resource away from it, which no longer can belong to you. Because I've taken those n number of fish out of that lake. So if the population is capital N, so capital N minus small n, which I have taken, is left for you only. So there is a rivalry in consumption. But no one can be excluded. So rival but non-excludable, those are what we call common property resources, or in short, common property. Sometimes they say common pool resources also. Excludable but non-rival. I can exclude you from the service of it. Amazon subscription, toll gate. But once you get in, there is no rivalry. These are called club goods. And those which are excludable as well as rival are pure private goods. Now, when it comes to either public good or say common property resources.
Sir, can you
Yes.
just repeat the word that you said for non-rival but excludable? I think I just lost you there.
Non-rival club, CLUB, club
Oh,
goods. It's like you are getting a club membership. If you're a member of it, the services of the club are non-rival. But those who do not take the subscription or do not have the option to enter the club are excluded from it. These are called club goods.
okay, sir.
Now, when it comes to public goods and particularly common pool resources, now there is quite a thin line here, as you might understand. Okay, I am using the street in front of my house, then no one cannot be excluded. And it's also non-rival after till a point of time. But what if it is completely congested? The example, negative externality. Then there might become a little bit of rivalry here. So a public good is an empty street, but a congested street can become a common pool resource or a common property resource. So there is a very thin line. We have to define it very carefully. And most of the time, when it comes to public good or a common pool resource or a common property, the problem that we face is that of free riding. What is free riding? There is a small park in front of my house. It's a pure public good. When I go to the park, you can also come. No one is going to infringe each other's pathways. There is no rivalry. No one can exclude anyone else to enter the park because it's a public park. But as I said, humans behave differently. I just go to the park so that I can have a walk with my kid, where there are a few youngsters who go to the park to just sit together, have a chat, but at the end of the day, they dump empty Lay's packet there. Hello. Yes. Madam ব্যস্ত আছে sir. Sorry, I had to take the call because it was an internal number. So I thought it might be some official thing. Anything. Anyway, sorry for that interruption. Now, they are sitting together, having a chat, and throwing empty Lay's packet. Now, the problem is, the question is when it is a public property or a common property, everyone can use it. So, right is there. Right is defined that everyone has the right to use it. But the responsibility is not defined. Who is going to maintain that? Who is going to take care of that property? So most of the time, the most common problem that arises for a public good or a common property is free riding. I can always use it to some extent, I can abuse it. I know there will be someone else to take care of it. So I use or enjoy my right of using it to the extent of abusing it without taking any responsibility for the maintenance of it. That's the problem. And everyone wants to free ride on the other. Okay. So from here, we can have a situation where we can define property rights. What is a property right? The exclusive control that you have over the use of an asset or the resource that we're talking about, and also you are responsible for the maintenance of it. You have an apartment somewhere, so you have the exclusive right to use it. It's your apartment, but at the same time you have the full responsibility for its maintenance. No one else is going to take care of it. It's a private property. Now, just I will now give you an example and try to link three things: externality, this property right, through a common pool resource or something. Just think of this imaginary situation. Suppose you're watching, there is this very nice, what I can say, web series. Yeah, it's a little unknown to everyone. You can search. Its name is Middle. Middle is about a middle class family with completely mediocre mentalities, mediocre capabilities, located in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in Indiana. And the particular village where it is shot, you can see long stretches of land where there are somewhere you have crop fields, there are some grazing pastures, all side by side. It's a beautiful, scenic beauty is paramount, so it's beautiful. So this type of picture you can imagine. Now think of two farms. Farm A raises cattle, farm B grows crop. There are no fences in between. So this is a common land. Take for example, where one part is used by a particular person for raising cattle, another part is used for growing crops. The problem is the cattle destroys the crop. Now we can ask three questions. Should the cattle from A roam in B? Because is it a question of the production structure itself? So production of farm A has a strong negative externality on the production of farm B. Now the question is, the only way to stop this is erecting a fence between farm A and farm B, which means I'm giving property right. I'm assigning property rights. So this side of fence belongs to B, this side of fence belongs to A. But to whom I give the property right? Means who pays for that fence? Yes. Yes. What was that noise? Clearly heard someone shouting at me or something of that sort. That was unnerving, I will say. That was quite a noise. Anyway, so who pays for the fence? And this is one of the most important theorems in recent years in economics. It's called Coase theorem. It deals with property rights, but with a fallacy. It says, look, this part, every word is very important. Regardless of how property rights are assigned with externality, the allocation of resources will be efficient when parties can costlessly bargain with each other. Now, let's make it clear, because there are certain terms which are little vague for you at the moment. Costless bargaining, efficient allocation of resources, property rights, and externalities. So now, just think, suppose A, farm A, the cattle raiser has the property right. So you give the property right to farm A. That means the owner of farm A has the right to let its cattle roam around anywhere it wants. So now farm B will think, what is the cost of erecting the fence and what is the cost of the damage done by farm A's cattle to farm B's crop. Now, what will be a rational decision? Depends on these two costs. If the cost of crop loss exceeds that of the fence, who has the property right? Farm A has the property right. So farm B will pay farm A the money to erect the fence. So if farm A has the right, farm B will bear the cost of the fence as long as erection of the fence is less costly than the damage to the crops. If the damage to the crops is less costly to the fence is more costly, then B will do nothing and let A's cattle roam around anywhere it wants. Now the reverse situation. Give property right to B. Now B can say, I have the right to this portion of the land. Either you erect the fence, or the moment any of the cattle comes to this side and damage a crop, I will capture the cattle. Now the same logic goes to the owner of the farm, A. So which loss is more? Both are costs. Fence is also costly. Losing a cattle is also costly. Now look, irrespective of whom you give the property right, you can understand the externality, right? The moment you have these two farms side by side, there is a negative externality of farm A on the production of farm B. The larger the farm A, which more number of cattle means more damage to the crop if there is no fence. So the externality part is clear. The property right, whether you give it to A or B, depending on the cost of the fence and loss to the crop damage, the fence will be erected or not. Now, allocation of resources, efficient. Now look at the third bullet point. The moment you build the fence, what you're doing? You're removing the externality. Cattle cannot go over the fence and damage the crop. The externality part is gone. The deadweight loss is gone. So it's a socially efficient outcome. So irrespective of whether you give the property right to A or B, so regardless of how property rights are assigned, the first part, irrespective of whom you give the property right, it is socially efficient to construct the fence as long as the benefit from the fence exceeds the cost of the fence. It will be done. Now the final part, costlessly bargain. Look, whether A has the property right or B, there should be a negotiation between these two farms over the fence. Now, if there is a cost in that bargaining also, then it will be the cost of the fence plus the cost of the bargaining. Suppose they fight each other few times before the fence thing. So there is bodily harm, medical costs. So it's no more a costless bargain. Then the equilibrium will change. If the bargaining itself is costly, then the equilibrium will change. We have to incorporate that cost also. So that's why costlessly bargain. So the bargaining between these two farms does not involve any other cost. Rather simply, okay, I have the property right, you pay for the fence. Now I'm seeing that yes, he is correct, he has the property right, I have to pay for the fence. The only thing I have to calculate is whether I should create it or not at all. What's the benefit of the fence? What is the cost of the fence? The benefit of the fence exceeds the cost of the fence. I will create the fence and remove the extent, and we are in a socially efficient equilibrium. Okay, so that's the first part to this thing, that if there is externality and if there is a common property, or yes, if there is a question, please stop me and ask. Okay, both of you raise your hand. I think there are two people or more people having questions. Avinav was also there, right? Yes. Anyone else?
Yes.
Any other questions? Anyone else have a question? Okay. So I'll start with Avinav because alphabetically going. Avinav?
So, like in the case of A having the property rights and B constructing the fence, externalities, cattle is destroying the crop of B, right?
Right.
What about in the inverse case, that is B has the property rights? There also externality remains the same, or does it change to loss of cattle for A, the externality?
No, no. The externality remains the same. The production of farm A has a negative impact on the production of farm B, right? There is no
Yes.
doubt about it. Externality is there. Now, who is going to remove that externality? The one who does not have the property right.
Okay.
Because the owner of the property was already having the rightful owner. So if suppose farm B is the rightful owner or given the property right, is assigned the right, we will say what? To farm A, you immediately construct the fence, or the moment your cattle comes to my ground, I will capture it. Now A cannot argue with that because A knows that B has the property right. Now A can take two stands. He can create the fence or not create the fence. That depends on loss of cattle vis-a-vis cost of the fence. Okay, Shachi.
Yes, sir. So in both of these situations where we are talking about the property rights, so in both of these situations there is no like costless bargain. Like, am I right?
Yeah, as long as the bargaining is costless, the only thing we are concerned about is the damage to the crop vis-a-vis the cost of the fence. We are not bringing any other cost.
So I didn't get like if we are talking in terms of the cost theorem, then what is the costless bargain? Because there would never be a costless bargain according to like
No,
me.
no, 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 no. Costless bargaining means what? The idea is assigning the property right. Once farm A is being assigned, take for example, okay, let me revisit that example again. Suppose farm A has the property right. What he will say? Your crop is getting damaged. I have the property right. If you want to protect your crop, you raise the fence. You pay for the fence, remove the extent. On the other hand, if B has the property right, he will say, A, your cattle is coming here. Either erect the fence or lose your cattle. So this is the bargaining I'm talking about. Who is going to erect the fence? That is contingent on property right first. Now the question is, what if this bargain in itself is costly? Take for example, A and B, they do not talk about this part that we have already talked, that I am the rightful owner. So if I am the rightful owner, it's your duty to erect the fence. And he agrees to that. If property right is assigned to A and A says, look B, I have the property right. If your crop is getting damaged, you erect the fence. B readily agrees. His choice of erecting it or not, depending on the cost structure, that's a separate issue. But he agrees to the fact that yes, A has the property right. That is the costless bargain. What if B says, I do not acknowledge your property right? This is my land as well. You come, I'll beat you up. Then neither of this story is going to hold. Assigning of property right will not hold at all. Acknowledging the property right and bargaining accordingly, keeping that, okay, this is the property right, this is the right, this is the claim, fine. Then we negotiate, fine. This is what I'm saying, costless bargain. But suppose you have to go to the court, spend thousands or even lakhs of rupees regarding the property, then the bargain is no more costless. It's a costly bargain. So in
Oh.
layman's parlance, we're talking about the claim, and if there are some dispute regarding the claim, legal dispute regarding the claim.
Sir,
Yes.
Sir, I have a
sir, my
follow-up. Shivam, like,
okay.
can you just wait? So, sir, can you just go to the 15th slide? Yes, sir. So in this, when we're talking that firm A has the
Right.
property rights, then we're saying that property B, like, sorry, firm B will first see that whether the cost of fence exceeds the damage of crops or not, and accordingly it will be its in interest or not. So if we take the example that the cost of fence exceeds the damage of the crop, in that case, like, both of the negatives are with firm B. So I just am not like able to grasp the fact
Yeah.
that then how
Fine.
this is a
Fine.
equal
No, then
bargain.
it will not be solved. Look. Take for example this exact example or exact situation, possibility that you're talking about. Farm A has the property right. So obviously A will not pay any more money to erect the fence, right? Because if his cattle goes over to the B's farm, eats up some corn or maize from there, it does not make any difference for the cattle raiser. So he does not have an incentive unilaterally to erect the fence. Fine. Now next thing is coming to B. B can see, okay, farm A has the right or the claim which he does not dispute. So costless bargaining is there. What he sees that the moment the cattle comes in, it is damaging the crop. So he can either erect the fence or let the cattle damage his crop, depending on the cost of erecting the fence and the loss to the crop. That is absolutely normal, right? So there's no negative with it. It's all about the cost benefit analysis a farm does. The benefit of the fence and the cost of the fence. If the benefit of the fence is less than the cost of the fence, why should I spend more and erect the fence at all? Let me ask you, Shachi, have you ever stayed in this campus? I do not know, because I think first year you have spent in the campus, right?
Yes, sir, I have.
Benefit of having a cycle and the cost of having a bicycle. That decides your purchase decision of a bicycle in the campus, right?
Yes, sir.
Remove, there are no option for bicycle now. Suppose, let's come to have a Honda Activa. Benefit from Honda Activa and the cost of Honda Activa. Will your decision change? Depending on rising petroleum prices?
Yes, sir, it will.
Same thing. Now, the right is with the institute to allow the bicycle or not. I'm not talking about the political issue. So you have the right to protest and something of that sort. I am completely agree with that. That's a separate thing. We're not into that domain. From the beginning, I'm saying I'm not into the political part of it. I'm only into the economic part of it. And now I'm bringing in a legal aspect to it. And the legal aspect is that somehow the institute thinks that there should be 5,000 bicycles inside the campus and not more than that. And Shachi, you are the 5,001st person. You do not have the option of having a bicycle. You can purchase a Honda Activa. Because the property right lies with the institute, not with you. What is the property? Using the roads of this campus. Now, whether you will purchase a Honda Activa or not depends on the cost and benefit of the Honda Activa. This example that I'm giving from the campus is not exactly correct because I'm not incorporating the externality. Coase theorem talks about the externality part. Look, the moment I erect the fence, I am internalizing the externality. I'm removing the externality. So from private optimum to social optimum. That is very important in Coase theorem. Now the question is, if the cost of the fence is more than the benefit of the fence, yes, farm B is unlucky. That's all I can say. But also, more importantly, the externality remains. So the system or the structure could not remove the externality. So that's the failure of the system in some sense. So the market failure continues. But if the benefit of the fence is more than the cost of the fence, then the market failure will disappear. The socially efficient outcome will prevail, irrespective of who has the property right.
Sir, I have a different approach on this.
Sure, Shiva. Just
Sir,
hold on for a second. Shachi, is that clear, or you have further questions or further doubts?
No, sir.
Fine.
Clear.
Okay, Shivam, please carry on.
Sir, sir, by property rights, you mean that all the land which B and A possess, that if B has the property rights, then all the land belongs to B and A is just doing the business in the land of B.
No, 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 no,
Is
no,
that
no.
what you're saying?
No, 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 no. Farm A, Farm B are different.
Okay.
But the right is about, if I give the right to A, that means Farm A's cattle has the right to go to B. If I give the right to B, that means Farm A's cattle does not have the right to go to B. But unfortunately, I'm talking about cattle. They will not understand. So the owners of A and B has to negotiate.
So why can't we give the right to both of them?
Okay, Navani. Just hold on. Priyansha has also raised her hand. I'll come back to you, Navani.
Yeah.
Priyansha.
Sir,
Yeah, sir.
I have
Yeah, Priyansha, go ahead.
an opinion that if the cattles of B are if cattles of A are grazing in B's land, then it is good for A, right? Because he won't have
Hmm,
to
hmm,
spend in the
hmm, hmm,
food.
hmm.
So, in that sense, also he won't be willing to pay for the fence
But
to
if B
build the
has the
fence.
right, if B has the right, then B can always capture the cattle. Isn't it?
So, can you repeat what you said?
If the crop grower, farm B, has the property right, then he is well within his legal limits to capture the cattle.
Yes, sir.
That's the problem. Yeah, Yatharth.
Sir, but they won't come into like a costless bargain then, because B won't be willing to
So what?
pay for the fence.
No, no, no. Look, then you are actually thinking of it in a. Let me again clarify. The costless bargain pertains only to the fact that either A or B can be assigned the property right. I'll come back to Novolin, okay? Either A or B can be assigned the property right. Now the question is, if A is given the right, then B does not counter that. Or if B is given the right, A does not counter that or does not dispute that. So once the right is assigned, it is assigned. That is the costless bargaining. Now the next stage is very simple. Suppose A has the right. A will say, as Priyansha you are pointing out, it's my right, so my cattle can go anywhere. If you want to protect your crop, you erect the fence. I don't have any problem if you erect the fence. I am not saying that you cannot erect the fence. But if you want to protect your crop, you erect the fence. So that's the costless bargaining. Suppose in this case, what is the two aspects of costless bargaining? One, B is not countering that A does not have the property right. And A is also not countering that B cannot erect the fence. The only thing is I have the right, A, as A I have the right. So B, if you want to protect your crop, you pay for the fence and erect it. I don't have any problem. Bargaining can become costly if either of these two or both of these fail. Take for example, A says, I have the right, you erect the fence. B says, I do not agree that you have the right. That is one failure. Second is, A says, I have the right and you also don't have the right to erect the fence. My cattle will roam and destroy your crop. I don't mind. Even if you erect the fence with your own money, I will destroy the fence. That is costly bargaining. Costless bargaining, I have the right, you don't oppose it. And I do not oppose that if you pay from your pocket and erect the fence. Simple. That's the costless part. Okay, Priyansha?
Sir, but in
Yes,
this
Shivam?
case, A doesn't have the right to capture the cattle of B doesn't have the right to capture A's cattle.
No. He can either
Okay.
erect the fence from his own pocket or not.
But
Because
the
A
land
has the
is
right.
his right.
No. Which one? Who has the property right? I'm saying B has the property right. A has the property right. And B is the crop grower.
So then all the land belongs to either A or B if any of those have the property rights.
But at the same time, look, Shivam, there is a nuance to it. It is not as simple as that. A is been given the property right. So A is not willing to pay for the fence. That's the first part. But this right does not enable A to stop B from erecting a fence to stop damage of crop. It's a little nuanced. There is a
Sir,
trick.
Sir,
Yes,
but
Shivam.
anybody's property right is only valid in his own property,
No,
right?
no. I'm not talking about private property. Shivam, then you have missed the point from the beginning. I'm talking about common property and using.
Okay, sir, fine.
I'm not talking that it's my house, my private property, your house, your private property. It's a common property, common pool resource, where one side a cattle grazer is using, other side another person using to raise the crop, grow the crop. And there is an externality. And now,
Sir, I have a doubt in
yes,
this.
yes.
Sir, how can we say that either A or B has the property right? In the most of the real world scenarios, both of them have the rights. So, like,
What about
I
the
didn't
fence?
understand.
Exactly. I understand. I completely understand. I think that's exactly the same thing Shivam was also making.
Yes, sir.
The idea is, look, suppose you think of a common pool or a common property. It's a field sort of thing. No one can claim that it's my private property. One side of A is there, another side of it B is there. Now A's cattle can roam inside and damage the crop raised by B. And that is the point of conflict. If both were raising crops in their own designated areas, no one is going to do anything. The moment I have an externality in it, in this case particularly a negative externality, the cattle roaming over to B's plot, B will raise an objection. Now who has the right? As Yatharth and Shivam, both of you are pointing out, yes, the place which is designated to me for cattle grazing, B is not coming to occupy that part and raise crop, and vice versa. What about that boundary? There is a cost of defining that boundary and stop or remove this externality, which is in this case cattle being blocked by a fence so that cattle cannot move from A to B. Now if none, now I'm also answering Navonil, if none is giving the right or both given the right, then the problem persists. The problem is not solved. To solve this externality problem, you have to assign property right either to A or to B. What do you mean by property right here?
So how do we decide that whom to give the property right?
Now this is a separate question. Remember, the Coase theorem does not talk about that.
Okay, so
So, but even in case both are given, like they could come up to an agreement or something like you pay for half, I pay for half, 50-50, and externality is removed.
Yeah, that is something we'll talk in advanced economic theory. The moment the fence is being, I'm answering to Avinav, the moment the fence is being created, there is a surplus. What is the surplus? The deadweight loss, right? There was a deadweight loss when the fence is not there. So when the fence is there, the deadweight loss is gone. So it's socially more efficient, which means there is a surplus somewhere. Who is going to have what portion of that surplus? That's a game in itself. We call it a bargaining game. It's called the sharing the pie. Alpha 1 minus alpha. Now, as Navonil pointed out, I can make it a little more technical. Either I can give alpha equal to 0 or alpha equal to 1. But no. When I say alpha and 1 minus alpha, I'm talking about alpha strictly positive. E can be an epsilon, but strictly positive. Look, this is another example which you can easily think of. Is a real life example that people from Bangalore are facing. Anyone from Bangalore?
Yes, sir.
Who is that? Avinav yourself. Very good. What is that lake which is being a point of concern for some time?
Bellendur.
Balender. Yes. Who has the property right? Residents of Bangalore or the polluting farms?
Municipality.
That means municipality is nothing but a representative of the residents. But does it have the property right clearly defined? If it is, then how come pollution in that, or dumping of sewage from polluting industry is still happening? Classic example of negative externality and property right. Why we are not getting a social optimal? Because bargain is not costless. The bargaining between the municipality, who should take care of the lake in and its maintenance, as representation of the residents of Bengaluru. It's also the same municipal corporation which is assigning license to the polluting farms to dump their sewage. So there is a conflict of interest, and hence bargaining is not costless.
Yes, sir.
So this is what I'm talking about property. Yeah.
Sir, we have another lecture at 12. So
Okay, it's already. Okay, let me stop the recording. Okay, see you next week.
Thank you, sir.
thank you so much, sir.